How do I even start this? Presumably, if you've clicked on this video, you have at least heard of Tenet, a 2020 film by Christopher Nolan. While I usually like his movies, even the flawed ones, this one is on another level. Now, I do not intend to criticize the plot, direction, characters, etc., unless something is really jarring. I know for a fact that there are people other than me who have done or will do that better than I could. What I'm here to utterly demolish is the setting, as it is truly mind-bogglingly stupid. I should say that there are going to be spoilers, as I aim to tackle every problem presented in a chronological order, with scenes attached, but trust me, this is not a movie you want to watch. I saw reviews and still decided to torture myself with it, and torture it was. I'm not exaggerating, this is one of the few movies which caused me actual pain in the form of a migraine. There are a few annoying problems with the film, like the atrocious sound balance.
They'll be safe. There's a rally point offshore at Trondheim. Get yourselves up there. Ives as a team ready to invert.
But it is the time travel aspect that truly makes it a bad one. Some people might have had the conclusion that they just did not get it. It is a Nolan movie after all, he must have had a clear vision, he must have thought it through, it must be genius we simply cannot understand. Trust me, it isn't. The film is constructed to be intentionally hard to understand with vague enough info dumps that the viewer might think there is actual substance behind everything. But the rules are extremely inconsistent, constantly distorted to make the plot happen. However, due to the convoluted nature of it all, I'll have to use some graphs and figures to properly explain how much the movie fails. As of writing this, I'm not even sure how I'll do it, but I hope it will be easy to understand. Alright, I've messed around enough, let's move on to our first scene.
One of these bullets is like us, travelling forwards through time. The other one's going backwards. How about now? It's inverted. Its entropy runs backwards, so to our eyes its movement is reversed.
So, reverse ammunition has been introduced here. This is the movie's attempt to ease us into the fact that some things have inverted chronology, moving through time backwards. I could shoot the idea down right now, but I'd rather you take this journey with me from calm analysis to the mental breakdown I'll most likely have by the end. So let's examine what a reverse bullet is with the utmost objectivity. We'll have to use two timelines to be able to properly understand it. The first example is quite simple. Our protagonist, whose name I did not take time to memorize,
I'm the protagonist of this operation,
messes around with it and reverse drops it. This is explained by the fact that time moves backwards for the bullet, and from its perspective it was dropped normally. However, we already see a problem here. What exactly prompted it to jump up? It has to adhere to the laws of physics after all. Since our guy could handle it normally, it seems to be subject to any force and movement initiated in a normal timeline, but experiences it as if it happened backwards. This means that it did fly up in one timeline while falling in another. Well, according to the movie, it was based on the protagonist's intent. Well, how does the bullet know intent? In most settings this is called magic, as it only makes sense from one direction while being impossible from the other. Indeed, it does not work when he does not think about it correctly, so the only possible way this works is if everything is preordained. The bullet flies up before it is reverse dropped because it has already been determined it will, and nothing can change that, as utter chaos would ensue then. Apparently the world itself is just a recording being played, we have no autonomy, everything is but a slave to fate. That's not a flattering prospect, but okay, let's see if this holds up. Next up we see a reverse bullet in action. It is unshot, practically hoovered up by the gun, which is presumably also inverted as it wouldn't work otherwise. Let's break this down in reverse first time. For the bullet, it is simply placed into the gun and shot at the wall. However, it all breaks with the regular timeline. First, people build the wall, carefully placing a bullet inside. Then everyone is instructed not to remove it or repair the wall because someone in the future wishes to shoot there. When the time comes, a very specific implosion hoovers up the bullet but nothing else and generates some gunpowder from the surrounding smoke. Here's the issue: even though the latter part would be covered up by the preordained argument, do not tell me people build walls with bullets applied in advance, perfectly recreating the hole it would cause. Even if we follow the chronology of the bullet as it moves back in time, someone is bound to find the damage it caused, and it would be investigated with the damage caused being repaired. However, if that happens, then the bullet will not be there for it to be hoovered up, breaking the cycle, unless it magically materializes or dematerializes shortly prior to and after the shot, which would be magic.
Don't try to understand it.
Look, you can argue that it is still covered by being fated to happen, but when fate interferes with what would normally in 99.9% of cases happen, then we have a problem. Just take a more drastic hypothetical. Someone detonates a reverse bomb, destroying a building and killing hundreds. It would mean that everyone killed in that explosion used to be dead since birth, grew up, and was transported to a mysterious rubble no one wanted rebuilt or cleaned up since it was, well, built like that, I guess. Then, when the time comes, a bomb detonates and suddenly every stillborn adult under the ruins is revived and continues their life as if nothing happened. Do you see the problem? While the forwards and backwards events can happen in their respective time direction, if one affects the other, that creates an impossibility both ways. If you're still struggling to make sense of it, do not worry, there'll be plenty more scenes to make you more confused. However, despite what the movie thinks, it is not confusing because it is clever, it is confusing because it is impossible and often contradictory. Here's the vague explanation of the movie though.
Bullet wouldn't have moved if you hadn't put your hand there. Either way we run the tape, you made it happen.
Don't try to understand it.
Most likely intentionally vague, they might have sensed partway through that this does not make sense. Anyway, there is still one more issue with the gun.
I've seen this type of ammunition before.
In the field?
I was almost hit.
Then you were exceedingly lucky. An inverted bullet passing through your body would be devastating.
They treat it as more powerful than a simple firearm. Why? Why is a weapon that can only shoot where it has been predetermined to shoot before, with easily detectable signs, better? A smart person would avoid places with a lot of bullet holes and the gun would be incapable of firing. Surely a simple bullet would deal just as much damage without the stupid limitations. Well, later on it turns out that such ammo is practically poisonous. They are very vague, surely intentionally, but here's what I can gather. Things are inverted using radiation. This radiation stays with the inverted objects, and the flesh it touches also becomes inverted, causing parts of the body to move through time the other way than the rest of the body. Alright, that probably does complicate things, but the negatives still massively outweigh the positives, not to mention the presumably hefty sum inverting the ammo would cost. The procedure requires a large and complex machine as well as nuclear material. Hardly a worthy trade-off if you ask me. There's also a future scene which pisses all over their effectiveness even more, but I did say I'd go chronologically, so let's move on to the next important scene now.
Now that we know what to look for, we're finding more and more inverted material. Remnants of complex objects.
What do you think we're seeing?
The detritus of a coming war.
We see remnants of a future war, inverted debris so to speak. However, the fact that they were found and brought into a secure holding facility, does that not undermine the possibility of them ever becoming debris in the first place? Just think about it for a second. Unless these components of their own volition start moving towards the space where they were reverse destroyed to assemble and be used in said war, it ain't happening the way it was meant to. They tampered with the future simply by moving around trash in a way that cannot be undone by natural means. This spits on the idea that everything is preordained, but we'll have more on that later. For now, let's move on to our very first fist fight. The action here makes no real sense either way, as they both seem to be moved by an unknown force. But some of these hits and throws clearly show that reverse people can affect the normal world. Look at that hit, undeniable. While this will be more important later, the problem is still evident here. Unless the fight is set in stone and cannot happen any other way, it is completely impossible. Just think of the punch. For the regular time guy, the punch happens after the effects have taken their toll. In the case of the reverse guy and his throw, he is affected before his opponent could even start his move. Therefore, all things must start before a decision is even made. If people have autonomy, this cannot happen, as they could have a change of heart at any moment, screwing up the already started motion. The scene is all over the place and it's hard to break down all the action, But it seems that in many cases things happen as if there was a single time flow, which is weird. Next, we have a rough explanation of what we are dealing with.
Technology that can invert an object's entropy.
You mean reverse chronology? Like Feynman and Wheeler's notion of a positron as an electron, moving backwards in time.
Oh, briefly, but he said something substantial. Wheeler-Feynman absorber theory. Look, I'm no physicist, I had to look this up and my understanding of it is limited, but I did find an old video where one of the authors himself explains this.
But then we discovered that if you have a particle going one way in time and then it turns around and comes backward in time, it behaves as if it had the opposite electric charge and was going in the normal way in time.
Very simply, it is a theory that particles moving backwards in time act as if they would move forwards but with the opposite electric charge. I'm not here to debate that, I'm not sure I have the necessary knowledge to even attempt it, but, and this is a very big but, Feynman, the other gentleman working on the theory, admitted that there is a problem with it. I won't detail it here, I leave the title of the book that contains the revelation in the description. So, after all, we did find something this whole idea is based on. Although, to be fair, things kinda change when you switch a single particle with an electric charge to a huge mess of things with widely varying charges. Let's not dwell on it too long. There are so many impossibilities and inconsistencies in this movie that having a sound law of physics to stand on would change little.
We have been attacked by the future.
I just love how stupid this line sounds. It also has other implications, but we have another explanation scene later where we can discuss it.
Were you worried it had been destroyed? Rest assured, instinct told me to remove it from the vault.
Just chuck it in the water, woman. He just gave you the leverage he has over you. It's heavy enough to sink, and even if it isn't, just jump after it and open the case in the water to ruin the drawing. Come on! I thought you were desperate, not mildly inconvenienced. This is not a criticism of the movie's world, but it's still stupid. This car chase scene is an odd one. Reverse bad guys sit in reverse car and leave it, forcing protagonist man to press the brakes.
She's getting away.
You left her in the car. Go after her. Go.
Alright, let's take this slow. So for them, they jump into an already moving reverse car, which started moving how? According to their timeline, it started by the protagonist.
I'm the protagonist of this operation.
Pressing the brake. Everything breaks down by just thinking it through.
Go.
Shouldn't this undo the bullet hole in her too, though? I mean, this does establish that getting shot, stabbed, damaged by objects with opposite entropy works different from inanimate objects, creating actual wounds instead of undoing them. I sure hope this stays consistent.
Spread too far.
Meaning what? She's gonna die.
So this is the scene where we find out the poison-like effect of reversed objects. This surely means it's just a matter of time. She's dead.
Can't you help her? Can we do something?
Can you stabilize the inverse radiation by inverting the patient?
Takes days.
Wait, what? How would that heal her? Would it also invert the wound too? So she would be reversed and the wound would be unreversed? Why would it affect her but not the wound?
Don't try to understand it.
Right.
This is the proving window. As you approach the turnstile, if you don't see yourself in the proving window, do not enter the machine. Why not? If you don't see yourself, reverse exit the machine, then you ain't getting out.
This highlights the problem with the concept even more. It takes a single throw to destroy the universe. What if I were to move up to the glass, wait for my inverted self to moonwalk into the machine, then decide not to go in? What then? Plus this logic is flawed. If you do not moonwalk into it, you won't come back, but you are just waiting for your doppelganger. What if it never comes because you are waiting for it? Let's say you do not really want to go in, so your intent is not really there. You could wait until your last day then. Plus, if you die in there, by not walking in, you rewrite both the past and the future, since you'll survive.
Is your head hurt yet?
Mine sure does, buddy. Mine sure does.
He threatened to kill her in the past. If he does, what happens to her here?
It's unknowable.
Hard to believe that never happened before, seeing that time travel has been here for a while now and they are supposed to be the people to know all about its effects.
Don't try to understand it.
Whatever.
You'll need your own air.
Can't breathe normal air? Why though?
Regular air won't pass through the membranes of inverted lungs.
No. Several interactions suggest that most things act normally for an inverted person. For example, gravity doesn't just let go. The sun still warms instead of cools. You still hear the sounds instead of them flowing out through your ears. Surely you could use the oxygen, it's the same after all, what does reversing it change? Items can still be handled as if they were normal. Why is oxygen different? Guess it's there so that we can tell who's inverted. Kinda lame.
Number 1 rule, don't come into contact with your forward self. Well, if your particles come into contact...
What?
Annihilation.
Why do you die if you touch your past self? Reasons, I guess. Oh, and here's a cool uniform you can wear so that we can have the big reveal later that you fought yourself earlier in the movie. Mind blown.
When you run, the wind will be at your back. You encounter fire, ice will form on your clothes as the transfer of heat is reversed.
Wait. What did she just say? Haven't you done enough, woman? Now this too? Do you remember what I just told you? Sun still heats instead of cools. Why would fire freeze? Who in their right mind would think this is even remotely possible? I'm losing my sanity here. The worst thing is, I think I know why this is the way it is. Obviously, fire heats up the air, but if you look at it reversed, the hot room is cooled down as the fire becomes fuel again. However, this happens before the fire is lit and it's still room temperature, not sub-zero. Plus, as I've established, all temperatures should be inverted by this logic. It's just stupid, and I don't even understand the reason for this. Is it meant to confuse us? Or give you a migraine?
Does your head hurt you?
Shut up, Edward.
Can I drive a car?
Cowboy shit.
I can't vouch for the handling.
Why? You can affect it like any old object. You had no trouble handling reverse guns. Alright, time to discuss vehicles. It is inverted, so technically it has already stopped and you aim to relive the journey it took. Why does the gas pedal start it normally? It would never have stopped while you are flooring the gas. It should start way before you press the pedal to be precise, and you should begin by stepping on the brakes as it would never have stopped if you didn't. I know it's hard to follow, but trust me when I say this scene alone proves Nolan did not stay consistent even with his own impossible rules. For all the talk about fire, it was dropped by an inverted person, therefore it was also inverted and should act like normal fire for the protagonist.
I'm the protagonist of this operation.
It's a formula, rendered into physical form so it can't be copied or communicated. It's a black box, one function.
Inversion, not objects or peoples. The world around us.
There we have it. The super advanced human society with the IQ of your average TikTok celebrity. Their plan is to revert the past and destroy it, and they expect that this will kill their ancestors, undo the damage they did to the environment, and simultaneously leave future people completely unaffected. Sound plan. Did they bother to test it? Of course not. That stuff's for nerds. The whole premise hinges on the fact that mankind has a death wish in the future. Even if there is a chance that their plan will work perfectly, what are the odds? 50-50? 70-30? How low would you go? If what you do has about a % chance that the entire world will end, would you risk it? I would rather look for alternatives, but it's not even this certain. There's about a 0.1% chance for it to work properly. So retarded.
Because the environment centrally flows in our direction, we dominate.
Wait, regular time dominates? How are reverse objects even allowed to work then? Wouldn't they be uninverted, or their effects overpowered?
Don't try to understand it.
It can invert the entropy of the world.
If that happens.
Oh. Interplay.
Everyone and everything that's ever lived, destroyed instantly.
I still do not get why everything's destroyed upon global inversion. Wouldn't it just mean that over millennia mankind would devolve into its ancestors? It's a slow death, I guess, but everyone before us gets a second go. I wouldn't really call it destruction. Apocalypse? Sure, but you make it sound like the world's about to explode.
Everyone and everything that's ever lived, destroyed instantly.
Including my son.
Yes, every person in existence does include your degenerate son.
We're their ancestors. If they destroy us, won't that destroy them?
It's bringing us to the grandfather paradox. You went back in time and killed your own grandfather. How could you have been born to commit the act? There's no answer. It's a paradox. But in the future, those in power clearly believe you can...
Yep, the grandfather paradox. The thing the future should have tested instead of believing in it.
That's reversing the flow of time. Doesn't us being here now mean it never happens?
Exactly. Just go home and drink coffee while on the toilet. Everything will sort itself out. It is pre-written, after all.
How's your arm?
Not good.
Oh, here we go. Destroying yet more consistency. This affects both previous and future scenes, so it's truly fitting for the movie. Protagonist man
I'm the protagonist of this operation.
gets stabbed during the fight, so his wound materializes out of nowhere before the act and is instantly healed by the stab itself. This means Bony Lady would be fine. The reverse bullet just healed the wound that materialized a few moments ago. By the way, I don't know if protagonist man
I'm the protagonist of this operation.
has a healing factor, but damn, did that wound heal fast in reverse.
You're going to warn me.
No, I'm not. Ignorance is our ammunition.
If she spoke, that would interfere with the plot too much and further undermine the preordained argument, which is already rotting in a ditch anyway.
Tell me you're gonna kill him.
Can't.
Why not? I think you probably killed a lot of people.
How will the dead man switch?
Why not kill him as a baby, by the way, or before he does the things he does? Or would that be too convenient?
You're not there to kill him. You're the backstop. If we don't lift that algorithm and he kills himself, he takes us all with him. Today's the 14th. Offshore of Siberia. Time for us to go. You keep going back another day. Give you some time to get back into Vietnam.
So, the yacht scene and the time war scene take place on 2 different days. Cockatoos from the future here. While editing, I realized that this line can be interpreted in a way that she goes back 1 extra day and uses a time gain to get to Vietnam, so that the 2 scenes can happen simultaneously. If this is the case, ignore some of my future points relating to the time difference. However, this does highlight other problems. If indeed Evilman wants to off himself and kill the world too, it is an awfully unlikely coincidence that he would go back to the exact day the reverse bomb the good guys are trying to stop detonates. Especially since this is supposed to be the happiest day of his past life, which Bony Lady guesses. Never mind the fact that the day when his practically estranged wife wants to divorce him and throws a tantrum is the best day of his life. His wedding, the birth of his son, their first date, any of these would be more likely candidates, and even if he is constrained by time, it doesn't seem like he could not go back a few extra days or months to a point where his wife still loves him. Never mind all this, the orbital coincidence of his past self leaving his past family alone, enabling him to swoop in and pretend to be past Evilman happening within a 10-minute window of the bomb exploding is mind-boggling. Besides, he is killed before the bomb detonates and the algorithm is not deactivated only disassembled minutes after the fact. It awfully seems like he could have been killed in a leisurely fashion before or after, and the time restraint and subsequent drama is poorly orchestrated, meant to build artificial tension. This bloody movie. Alright, I let my past self take it from here.
Mayhem, do you copy? Road clear. I repeat, road clear.
Copy that.
How can they communicate in real time? Why is there a ticking clock? Wouldn't he already be dead for a day regardless of when they do this?
Teams have countdown watches. Ours counts down from 10 from landing to 0 to the explosion.
Why did they only deploy with so little time left?
Why are we still here?
They told me you'd go ashore.
That should be a dead giveaway, there is something going on. How could he shoot that bazooka if he was chronologically killed before according to his timeline? That building was only whole for a few seconds since it existed. Was it specifically built as a decorative rubble?
And Max will be here soon. They said they thought it was you, not Anna, ashore with Max.
A dead giveaway.
How could they want to kill us?
Because their oceans rose and their rivers ran dry. We're responsible.
And here we go, the cookie-cutter environmentalist message. I've studied nature conservation engineering at university, so believe me when I tell you that I sympathize with such a notion, but this is so basic I can hardly fathom it. Not to mention the fact that it is extremely hypocritical. Nolan blew up a real plane during filming, something that could have been done by CGI or some trick shots. No, he burned who knows however many liters of fuel and destroyed a perfectly functional plane for a few minutes of screen time in a terrible movie. Way to send the right message. It's like preaching about the dangers of alcoholism while holding a half-empty bottle of whiskey. So this is another inconsistency. If we are going by the knife example, he should be shot before Baldy pulls the trigger, which would hoover the bullet out while healing the wound since Edward is inverted compared to him. Of course that would not work as he would die way before he could position himself where he is shot, so this is all impossible based on pre-established rules. But I guess we could not have that shocking revelation at the end otherwise. Cheap and ineffective really. They seem very happy here, but all they did was get the factory default advanced technology prop before it was buried by a reverse explosion, so they could just travel back further and dig it out would they fail. If the fate of the world depends on it, I'd wager there would be at least someone to lend them some kind of excavator. Or you know, after they see which chopper brings the stuff, go back for round 2 and shoot it out of the sky. But nah. We gotta have our ticking time bomb and triumphant ending regardless of how hollow it is.
What's happened's happened. Which is an expression of faith in the mechanics of the world. It's not an excuse to do nothing.
Fate?
Call it what you want.
What do you call it?
Reality.
Oh, so deep I'm pissing myself. Guess this is another attempt to reinforce the burning reels of the everything is preordained notion. Wait, is this the final message? We have no autonomy, folks. Cheat, murder and pillage your way through life since it's not your fault. You see, it was already written that way. If we combine it with the environmentalist elements, we get something even more depressing. Care about nothing and no one as the world was meant to be destroyed. We were destined to make the planet such a shitty place that risking complete annihilation is a sound option to try and repair the damage. What a lovely picture. Truly a masterpiece of storytelling. Also, since we are done with the whole story, let me just say that all of this is on a weaker foundation than you might expect. As is often the case with time travel plots, there is nothing stopping someone from the future collecting the ugly sci-fi MacGuffin again, or killing them before they could acquire it, or anything really. Time travel is a very intricate subject, and I would advise against employing it unless one is willing to put in the effort to go through every possibility and account for them. In other words, don't bother. There are so many pitfalls, so many things that can go wrong that good time travel plots are extremely rare and usually very limited in what that technology can do. I've already said I'm not a physicist, nor do I intend to dig myself into the possibility of traversing time, but let me share my thoughts on the matter. Just a few ideas based on nothing but logic, things that can cause a paradox tend not to exist. I'm not talking about a soft paradox like language being capable of expressing something impossible, but an actual hard one like someone being their own father or something. That is the whole point of a paradox. It cannot be real as the laws by which our universe operates keep it from happening. Therefore, something that grants us the possibility to try and create these paradoxes also has to be an impossibility. Those are my 2 cents anyway. Alternate universe time travel does not count. I know this isn't my regular content, but after watching the movie I knew I had to do something. And while I'm glad I did so, rewatching it a few more times wasn't a pleasant experience either. This was kind of a weird passion project I both loved and hated doing. I don't know when or if I'll ever do something like this again, but to be fair, I never knew Tenet would be this bad. I thank you for watching despite the fact that it greatly deviates from my usual stuff, but I do this as a hobby for my own sake, so I'll uphold my right to do any sort of video I'd like to. Thank you again for watching or doing any of this stuff, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye!